Hello everyone, I am Chef Vernetta and today we are going to make a lasagna. So today is Sunday and I felt like this was a great dish to do on a Sunday because it kind of mixes up the traditional Sunday dinner and it's an easy dish to make. Everyone loves lasagna. You can make it Saturday ahead of time, put it in the refrigerator and bake it off on Sunday and then you're set to go. So some of our ingredients is red pepper, onions, and garlic. And if you can see and you're like me, I tend to have pieces of pepper and pieces of onion left, so that's what I have and I'm going to add that to it. We have some fresh chopped basil, some fresh chopped parsley, some ricotta cheese, and then we have an egg that we're going to add to our ricotta cheese to help bind it. And for the meat, I have ground beef and ground mild Italian turkey sausage. So we have the lean turkey and then I have lean ground beef. So when you purchase ground beef, if you see the numbers on ground beef, you may see 80-20 or 70-30, 90-10. That tells you how much fat is in it or how lean it is. So I always try to find the 90-10. 90-10 is that it only has 10% fat, so you won't have as much fat on the meat. So that's what I look for. And then I always do a mild Italian turkey sausage. I try to stay away from the pork, so I do turkey. And then I have my noodles that I've already cooked off. And I just cook these in boiling water, no salt. So I did not add any salt to the water, but I did add olive oil to the water. So I cooked these in olive oil on the stove in the water for about 6 to 8 minutes. So they were just a little bit tender. I took them out and then let them drain out. We also have cheese. I have mozzarella cheese and cheddar cheese. And then for our sauce, today I'm using a store-bought sauce. You can make your own sauce if you like. If you decide to make your own sauce, you would need crushed tomatoes, tomato sauce, tomato paste, and your seasoning. I like now in the store, because there are so many other healthy options, I look for a tomato sauce that has no sugar and no salt added so that I'm not worried about the sugar content or the salt content in it. So it's some really good brands in the store that you can find if you don't want to make your own tomato sauce. What we'll do is we will brown off our meat, saute our veggies, mix our egg with the ricotta, throw some of the parsley in it, stir it all up, and then we will start to mix and layer our lasagna. Like I was saying, this is something that you can make ahead of time and put it in the refrigerator and bake it off the next day. And it just gives you a good alternative to a Sunday dinner that's, I would say, so heavy. We're getting ready to hit spring and summer, so something quick and light is, you know, I think what we all look for. You can add a nice salad to this. I'm going to add Brussels sprouts on the side of mine and a little bit of garlic bread. So I'm excited to do this dish with you all, show you this lasagna, how easy it is and how delicious it is. So we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to cut our veggies. So I peeled the pepper and took the rib out. And you don't have to cut them really fine because you're going to saute them and then we're going to also add them to the dish, and that's going to continue to cook a little more. And I'll do this one. Some pieces that are hanging, so let me get those. So gave them a nice cut. And then my onion, since it was already some leftover pieces, it's kind of already sliced a little bit for me to dice it. So I'm going to follow these lines and just go down. If you're starting from scratch with your onion, just go ahead and slice it down, cut it in half, peel it first, cut it in half, and then slice it to get your dice. So I'm going to just cut here, and I'm just gonna rough chop these because it's going to cook down inside of our sauce. And then I have garlic cloves, and I'm just gonna cut them as well. Just a nice chop on them. And I'm just gonna put it all together because I'm gonna add it to my sauce together. And I'm saying right now during this time, it's been so hard for me to find gloves because everyone is using gloves and my hands are small, so I look for small gloves and I've been having to do mediums. So I'm always careful when I cut. When you're cutting, definitely be careful. Also, always make sure that you use a sharp knife. A dull knife is more dangerous than a sharp knife. The reason is when you have a dull knife and you're trying to get in, it's easy to slip and cut your finger because you're trying to work too hard. If your knife is sharp, you get a cleaner cut. So just cut my garlic. I'm gonna take this out and add this to our bowl. Let me get some of these bigger pieces and just chop those. And they're gonna cook down pretty good. So if you have some bigger pieces, don't be too alarmed. I'm gonna add all of this to our little dish. I love lasagna. I don't make it often, but I love it. And when I do make it, I always make sure that I freeze some. It freezes really well. A lot of times when you make a lasagna, depending on how many people are in your household, you have a lot left over, but it does freeze really, really well. So, see, I cut our veggies, and I just gave them a rough cut because they're gonna cook down. And then the next thing, I have our ricotta cheese, and I'm going to grab a spoon to make sure I can mix that. And we just want to we just want to crack our egg in the ricotta. And that's going to be a binder for us. So, you know, when your lasagna sticks together, the layers, you can see the different layers. This is one of the reasons why. I just had 1 8-ounce can of ricotta cheese. Another good alternative, if you don't have ricotta cheese and you have cottage cheese on hand, or it's easier to find cottage cheese, you can use cottage cheese in this dish also. So you would do the same thing, the cottage cheese and 1 egg. So we're just gonna get all of that nice and mixed up. Another good alternative to your ricotta cheese is if you add spinach to it. So you can get the frozen spinach, let it thaw. Once it thaws out, squeeze it to drain all of the moisture out and add this to your mixture. It is really good in the lasagna. Got that all mixed up. And I'm going to add some parsley to this. And the parsley truly is just for color. I can add more in it. I just like the way it looks in the lasagna. So I got that nice and mixed up. So here we go. And our next step will be browning off our meat with our vegetables, mixing our sauce in, letting that simmer a little bit, and then we will start the layering. Okay, so I have my pan on the stove. I have just a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the pan. I started it with medium, but I'm getting ready to turn it down to low. And it should be nice and hot, so you want to go ahead and get your olive oil or a vegetable oil inside your pan. Start it with medium to let it heat up, and then turn it to low. And I'm going to first add our veggies to the pan. See, I'm going to get all of those in there. And I'm going to get them all moved around evenly. And I'm going to let those cook for about a minute, and then I'm going to add the meat. And I'll add both of the meat at the same time. What I'm going to do also with the meat, another reason why I have my gloves on, I want to crumble the meat as I add it so I don't have big clumps of meat inside of the dish. So we'll just let that cook a little bit. And what we're doing, we're I guess I'll say a culinary term is we're sweating our vegetables. So when you sweat your vegetables, a little bit lower heat, and you're just bringing out the natural moisture. If you want to caramelize them or saute them, you have the heat up a little bit higher. So I'm on low heat, and I'm just letting these cook. Move them around a little bit again. And it smells really good already. The reason I'm not cooking them on such a high temperature is they're going to cook more in the dish or cooking the lasagna, so I don't want them to get too soft because they still have a long way to go in the cooking process. So, but what I will do is turn it up a little bit more, because as I add my meat was cold. So whenever you add cold meat to a pan, it's going to drop the temperature of the pan. So a lot of times, depending on what I'm making, you can have your meat at room temperature. So take it out about an hour before you're going to use it. That way it's not so cold. It doesn't make your pan so cold. Same way if you're cooking like chicken or you're frying chicken and you put it in the pan, and if you put too many pieces in there and they're cold, it's going to start to drop the temperature of your oil, and that's what we don't want. So I'm going to turn it up a little bit, and I'm going to start to add my meat. So this way I can do it without my hands in the way. So I'm trying to crumble it up as much as I can, so that, this is what I'll do. This will make it easier, so that I don't have really big pieces. So I have the meat here, and I'm just crumbling it with my hands. Don't put your hand in the pot. Chefs, sometimes we take risks. But I want to get it nice and crumbled. Have my Italian turkey. Get that all crumbled in. And the good part about the Italian turkey sausage is that it has a lot of already good herbs and seasoning in it, so you don't have to add as much. Getting that nice and crumbled in there. So nice and crumbly. And then I am going to take my gloves off because I have touched the raw meat. And I'm going to stir this around the pot. But you can let it cook a little bit before you start to stir it. And I have the temperature down, so it will start to cook a little more. And I'm just going to turn it up some and let it do its cooking. And I'll go and stir it occasionally to get it moved around. But this is like one of the fun parts. And I say that like loosely, but I say fun because you have to let the meat just cook. And that takes a little time. So if you haven't already set, like during this time, if you haven't already set up your station, and when I say station, got all your ingredients together, your pan together that you're going to put it in, spray your pan, you can kind of do that while you're waiting for the meat to cook or brown all the way. And I'm just getting my sauce together so that I'm ready to add it to the dish while the meat cooks. I'm gonna come in, give it another stir, and as you can see, it's starting to turn brown. So we'll just wait for this to cook and get all the way brown, and then we will drain it. So once your meat is cooked, you want to drain the excess liquid off of it. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes and our meat is all brown. And what I did was drain the grease off of it. It wasn't a whole lot because, like I said, I make sure I get the 90-10, but everything is nice and cooked. Also to the meat, I added a little bit of onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder, a pinch of salt, just a pinch, and a pinch of pepper. That's all I added to the meat. So about a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder, a pinch of salt, and a pinch of pepper. All right, our meat is done, and I'm going to add our sauce. So I have my pasta sauce, and I'm just going to add it directly to our meat. And I use 2 jars of sauce. I don't like the lasagna too dry, and I don't like it too wet, but the noodles will absorb some of the sauce, so you want to have just a little extra. So we got all of that, and I'm just going to stir to get it all evenly mixed. Get everything mixed around, and I'm stirring very gently so I don't get any splatter. And I have the temperature turned down to low because we want to let this cook for about 30 minutes just for everything to come together. So I got it mixed pretty good. I'm going to add our basil to it. It smells so good. Get all of that mixed around. And I'm going to add just a squeeze of honey. Now, Italians do not add honey or sugar to their pasta sauce. I get this from my mom, from just learning how to cook, to always add a little bit of sugar. In this case, I stopped using sugar and I add just a little bit of honey just to cut down on the acidity inside of the tomato sauce. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of honey, not much because I don't want it sweet either. That's it. That's all I added. Gonna stir that around and let it cook on low for about 30 minutes. It smells really good. So we'll just let this cook. Okay, so our sauce has simmered for 30 minutes, and I let it simmer for 30 minutes, and then I let it sit for about another 30 minutes just to cool off some. It's still pretty hot, but I did give it a chance to cool off. So it's ready to go. As you can see, it looks really good. I have a casserole dish that I've sprayed with some non-stick spray, and then we're just gonna start the layering process. So I have a smaller casserole dish. I have a larger one, but this is one of my favorite casserole dishes, as you can tell. I've had it since I probably first started cooking. So it's lasted me just that long, and I just have a thing for it. So I'm gonna use this casserole dish. You can also use an aluminum pan for easy cleanup, as well as for storing inside of the refrigerator. So I'm gonna start with sauce. So I'm going to layer the sauce down at the bottom. I'll probably do about 3 and just spread it around. Make sure that it gets evenly around the bottom. If you need more, you can add more to it. And our lasagna is going to be about 2 layers. If you do a deeper pan, you can probably get more layers, but I think 2 is enough of it. So we have sauce down at the bottom, and then we're going to start with our noodles. So I'm going to get my noodles and just start layering them down. And because I cooked my noodles ahead of time and I olive oiled them, they are not sticking together, which is good. And as I put the noodles down, I'm making sure I press. I just want them to get into the sauce. They may curl up some, that's fine, but I'm just gonna press them as much as I can and get them down in the sauce. So we're now going to add our cheese. And remember, when you're doing your lasagna, it's sauce, noodles, cheese. Then sauce, noodles, cheese. So we'll get our cheese down. And I just do little dollops everywhere so that I can spread it. I'm gonna start spreading to see if this is good. And you wanna go light when you spread so that you don't pull your noodles up from the sauce. And you can hold it down if you need to. So it looks like I may need just a little, well, I don't know. Let me keep spreading and see maybe if I need a little more of the ricotta mixture. I think that's pretty good. So have that spreaded. I'm gonna get this little corner here. Maybe I put a little bit in that corner. Just a little bit in the corner here. Get it all across here. All right. And in my bowl, I have some mozzarella cheese and some cheddar cheese shredded. And I'm going to sprinkle that across here. And you just want to get it evenly around as much as possible. Kind of shake it out if you have to. I like to get the thick cut cheese. And then I try to do this without getting too messy hands, but I like to press it all down, get it all put together, press it all in. My gloves may get a little cheese on them, but I'm going to shake it off. And now I'm going to go in with another layer of sauce. And if you have sauce left over, that's fine. You can use it for spaghetti. You can save it for the next time. Making sure I get. And I tend to go on my second round of sauce a little bit heavier. Sauce. Do more sauce. And I know once we get it layered, it's gonna look like it is coming out of your casserole dish. When you bake it in the oven, you wanna put it on a sheet pan or put it on top of something. So if you get spillover, it will catch it. So, oh, and another thing that you can do with your sauce is save it to put on the bottom of your lasagna. Once you plate it, you can add a little extra sauce to it if you like sauce. Okay, so I got that all. And I like to shake it, make sure it all just starts to drip in and go in. And if I turn it to the side, if you can see our layers, I don't want to tilt it too far, but our layers are forming. And I'm going to go with another layer of noodles. So we have noodles. And I always make extra noodles, like just a few extra, not a lot, but just a few extra noodles, just in case some of them break, so that I can already have them on hand. I try to go for some of the softer noodles. That one's too curled for me. I'm not gonna use that one. Here we go. Perfect. I'm gonna press it all in. Then we have our last bit of cheese. So you may not have as much of the ricotta cheese left for your top layer, but you still just want to kind of dollop it on there to get it all nice and spread evenly around as much as you can. And I probably, got it in the way. I'll probably grab a spatula to make sure that I get all of it out of my bowl, but I'm going to spread this first. The last spread is always a little bit trickier because you have more sauce. So, spread here. That last spread is just tricky. So I'm going to grab a spatula so that I can add the extra, or so that I can clean my bowl, sorry. Make sure I get everything out of my bowl. So you can see I'm just making sure I scrape down the bowl so that I can get everything out. It's gonna always be that corner that's closest to me that needs the most attention. Perfect, so I got everything out the bowl. And I'm just going to drizzle that in. Get it all moving around. And now I'm going to add our cheese. And I may have to add just a little bit more cheese to our bowl. Add a little bit more cheese to the bowl so that we can cover the top of the lasagna. And I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna spread this out some. Spread it. I don't want to use all of it because what I'm going to do is add a little bit more sauce and then cover it and bake it, and then I'll add my cheese at the end. I'll do that. Okay, got that kind of spread it out. I'm going to shake it again, make sure everything's in there, and I'm just going to add, see, we still got a good bit of sauce left, which is fine. I'm just going to add just a little sauce, not to cover it up all the way, but just to top it a little bit, and then I'm going to bake it. I'm going to mix that all in. And then I'm going to bake it covered for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then top it with the remainder of our cheese. Let's a little bit more of that. Okay. Perfect. So now we have our lasagna. Let's get everything down here. Clean the sides off. And taking off my gloves because I'm going to cover this. Give it a nice shake. I'm going to cover it with aluminum foil and I'm going to put it in the oven for 30 to 40 minutes. Take the top off and sprinkle the cheese on it, the remainder of the cheese. Also, once you take it out the oven and put your cheese on top, you'll put it back in the oven for about 5 minutes, just enough time for the cheese to melt. And before you cut your lasagna, you want it to sit for 15 to 30 minutes so that it can come back together, and what's the word? So that it's all formed before you cut it. Because if you cut it too soon, it will spill over. So here we go. And I'm going to get the aluminum foil.